Not every path to stardom glitters from the start. Some stars rise through shadows, carrying not just the weight of fame, but the fight to simply be seen. In today's episode of Classic Hollywood, we honor 7 groundbreaking transgender celebrities. Icons who didn't just entertain us, but challenged society, sparked change, and showed what it truly means to live boldly. You may recognize their names. You've likely seen their work. But today, we go deeper. Behind every spotlight is a story. Behind every performance, a truth. These aren't just stars. They're trailblazers, and their journeys will stay with you. Number 1. Caitlyn Jenner, the courage to begin again. Before the world knew her as Caitlyn Jenner, she was one of America's most celebrated athletes. As Bruce Jenner, she captured the hearts of millions with an unforgettable victory at the 1976 Montreal Olympics, earning the gold medal in the decathlon, the ultimate test of strength, speed, and endurance. At the time, Bruce was hailed as the embodiment of American masculinity, gracing magazine covers and cereal boxes, a hero to many, and a symbol of excellence in the golden era of sports. But behind the medals and media praise lived a much quieter, more personal battle. For decades, Caitlyn lived with a secret that shadowed every achievement, a truth about her identity that the world wasn't ready to hear, and she wasn't yet ready to share. That all changed in April 2015, when she courageously came out as a transgender woman during an emotional, deeply honest interview with Diane Sawyer. That televised moment wasn't just a headline, it was a cultural reset. Suddenly, transgender identity wasn't just a fringe topic, it was on primetime television, in every living room across America. Caitlyn didn't just share her story, she cracked open a national conversation about identity, authenticity, and acceptance. People weren't just watching, they were listening, many for the very first time. Soon after, Caitlyn allowed even more of her journey to unfold publicly through the docu-series I Am Cait, offering a deeply personal glimpse into the everyday challenges and victories of transitioning later in life. It wasn't always easy. She faced public scrutiny, political backlash, and intense media pressure. But through it all, she remained committed to sharing her truth. Not for fame, but for visibility. Her memoir, The Secrets of My Life, added further depth to her story, tracing her journey from Olympic glory to inner turmoil and ultimately to self-liberation. In its pages, Caitlyn revealed not just her gender identity, but her long-standing emotional struggles, her relationships, and the cost of keeping a part of herself hidden for so long. To some, Caitlyn's transition came as a surprise. To others, it was a moment of inspiration. But whether embraced or debated, one thing is undeniable. Her courage sparked conversations that had long been avoided, especially among older generations unfamiliar with the complexities of gender identity. For audiences of classic Hollywood, Caitlyn Jenner's story is more than a tale of transformation. It's a testament to the power of reinvention. It reminds us that life is not a single chapter or a fixed narrative. No matter your age, no matter your past, it is never too late to become who you truly are. Because sometimes the greatest act of bravery is being honest with yourself. Number 2, Laverne Cox, redefining power, one role at a time. Laverne Cox didn't just step into the spotlight, she broke it wide open. Born on May 29, 1972 in Mobile, Alabama, Laverne's early life was marked by adversity. Growing up as a young black trans girl in the conservative Deep South, she endured bullying, misunderstanding, and the ache of isolation. She was different, and the world around her made sure she knew it. But even in those lonely, painful years, Laverne held on to something more powerful than fear: purpose. That purpose led her to New York City, where she would study dance and acting, determined to find her voice. Not just artistically, but personally. After years of grinding in a city that often looked past people like her, Laverne got the call that would change everything. A role in a little-known Netflix show called Orange is the New Black. She didn't just play Sophia Bursay, she embodied her. Sophia, a transgender woman navigating life behind bars, wasn't a token character. She was layered, vulnerable, fierce, and deeply human. Through Laverne's nuanced portrayal, millions saw, perhaps for the first time, that trans people were not caricatures or headlines. They were people. Mothers, partners, friends, fighters. Her performance made history. Laverne became the first openly transgender person nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award in an acting category. But more than accolades, that moment cracked open a barrier in Hollywood that had stood for far too long. The industry couldn't ignore her anymore, and neither could America. But Laverne never stopped at performance. Off-screen, she's become one of the most powerful voices in the fight for transgender rights. From speaking on Capitol Hill to appearing on magazine covers, from TED Talks to classrooms, she uses her platform not just to shine, but to uplift others. She speaks out about healthcare discrimination, racial inequality, and the tragic violence facing Black trans women, a crisis too often left in the dark. To older audiences, Laverne's story isn't just about identity, it's about resilience. It's about staying true to who you are, even when the world says you should hide. She reminds us that representation isn't about checking a box, it's about changing hearts. Laverne Cox redefined what it means to lead with grace and strength. She didn't just open doors, she kicked them off the hinges, so the next generation wouldn't have to knock. And perhaps her greatest role of all is being exactly who she is. Number 3. Gigi Gorgeous, the beauty of becoming. In a world obsessed with image, few have dared to reveal what's behind the mirror quite like Gigi Gorgeous. Born Gregory Alan Lazzarato on April 20th, 1992 in Canada, Gigi began her public life in front of a webcam. At just 16, she launched a YouTube channel centered on makeup, fashion, and self-expression. To her audience, she was vibrant, funny, and full of charisma, a rising digital star. But beneath the foundation and filters, Gigi was still searching for something deeper, something real. Then, in 2013, she did something truly radical. She came out to the world, not just as a transgender woman, but as herself. Her decision to transition wasn't made behind closed doors, it was shared online, step by step, emotion by emotion. She brought millions of people along for the journey through every tear, triumph, setback, and celebration. It was raw, it was intimate, and it changed lives. Gigi's videos weren't just about makeup anymore, they were about transformation. Not just physical, but spiritual. She spoke openly about her fears, the joy of rediscovering herself, and the heartbreak of losing her mother, a grief that shaped her and deepened her empathy. She wasn't just teaching people how to contour, she was teaching them how to understand. What made Gigi's story so powerful wasn't just her glamour, it was her honesty. In a digital world where everything is curated, she chose to be vulnerable. She helped parents see their children with new eyes. She gave young trans viewers someone to look up to. She offered older generations a bridge between confusion and compassion. Over time, Gigi evolved from influencer to advocate. She's spoken on global stages, walked red carpets, and even starred in her own documentary, This Is Everything. Gigi Gorgeous. But at the heart of her fame is a simple truth. Gigi never tried to be perfect. She only ever tried to be real. To the audience of classic Hollywood, Gigi represents a new kind of star. One born not on film, but in the glow of a webcam. One who rose not through scripts and studios, but through radical self-expression in a world that rarely welcomes honesty. She reminds us that courage doesn't always come in the form of protest or politics. Sometimes it comes in a whisper, a video, a choice to be seen. And that even in the age of pixels and scrolls, the oldest truth still remains. Being yourself is the boldest thing you can do. Number 4. Andrea Pejic. Breaking the mold. One runway at a time. Before the fashion world knew her name, Andrea Pejic had already defied expectations simply by surviving. Born on August 28, 1991 in war-torn Tuzla, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Andrea and her family fled the violence of the Bosnian War, eventually seeking refuge in Australia. It was there, far from the chaos of her birthplace, that another storm began to brew. Not of bombs and borders, but of identity and self. By her teenage years, Andrea's striking features caught the attention of modeling scouts. But unlike most models, she didn't fit into the tidy boxes the fashion world tried to place her in. She didn't just walk men's or women's runways, she walked both. Androgyny was her calling card. Her look was celebrated as unconventional, edgy, even controversial. But behind the editorial spreads and fashion weeks was someone quietly navigating her truth. In 2014, Andrea made the decision to publicly come out as a transgender woman. For the fashion world, it was a headline. For Andrea, it was freedom. She was no longer a curiosity, a model caught between categories. She was finally allowed to be herself. Not in secret, not on someone else's terms, but fully, openly, and unapologetically. Her announcement wasn't just brave, it was historic. She became one of the first openly transgender models to appear in major campaigns and walk for world-renowned designers without hiding who she was. But Andrea didn't stop at modeling. She became a fierce advocate for trans visibility within an industry known for celebrating beauty while ignoring identity. Her very presence challenged the traditional notions of gender in fashion, a world obsessed with roles, labels, and appearances. Through interviews, documentaries, and editorials, she began speaking out, not just about her transition, but about the importance of being seen without compromise. She reminded the world that beauty isn't about fitting a mold, it's about breaking it. And elegance isn't stitched into a garment. It's sewn into the courage to own your story. To the audience of classic Hollywood, Andrea Paye's story may feel unfamiliar on the surface. She's not from the silver screen of old, but in truth, her narrative echoes the same timeless arcs that define the legends of cinema. Rebirth, identity, and the pursuit of authenticity against all odds. She reminds us that even in industries built on illusion, truth still has the power to shine through. And sometimes the most powerful transformation is not becoming someone new, but finally allowing the world to see who you've been all along. Number 5. Janet Mock, writing her truth into history. Some people change the world with their voice. Janet Mock changed it with her words. Born on March 10, 1983 in Honolulu, Hawaii, Janet's early life was filled with contrasts. Tropical beauty on the outside, but private storms within. As a young, multiracial trans girl of color, she faced a world that often refused to see her. Poverty, discrimination, and deep misunderstanding shaped her formative years, but they did not define her. Instead, they built the foundation for something unshakable: her voice. That voice would become her greatest tool, and one day, it would change everything. In 2014, Janet released her debut memoir, Redefining Realness. It wasn't just a coming-out story, it was a call to humanity. With unflinching honesty, she shared her journey through childhood trauma, sex work, transition, and triumph. She gave readers more than a glimpse into the life of a transgender woman. She gave them connection, context, and a chance to care. The book resonated far beyond the LGBTQ+ community. For older audiences and mainstream readers, it was a turning point. Janet wasn't trying to shock anyone. She was simply telling the truth. And in doing so, she became one of the most visible, powerful trans voices of her time. But Janet didn't stop at the page. She stepped into television and made history once again. As a writer, director, and executive producer on the groundbreaking FX series Pose, Janet Mock helped bring the rich, vibrant world of New York's 1980s ballroom scene to life, a world largely invisible to mainstream audiences until then. She became the first trans woman of color to be hired as a writer for a major TV series, and eventually the first to secure a deal with a major studio. Through Pose, she honored the legacy of Black and Latinx trans women whose stories were long ignored, sidelined, or erased altogether. And she told those stories with authenticity, beauty, and reverence. To the audience of classic Hollywood, Janet Mock stands as a modern storyteller with the soul of a classic icon. She's not just part of history, she's writing it. Her presence behind the scenes reminds us that power doesn't always wear a spotlight. Sometimes it sits quietly behind a script, shaping the world frame by frame. Janet's journey is not just about transgender identity. It's about owning your narrative, no matter how painful, and using it to uplift others. Her courage isn't loud, it's deliberate, it's enduring, and it's incredibly rare. Because at the heart of every era-defining moment is someone brave enough to put their truth on the page and dare the world to read it. Number 6, MJ Rodriguez, a voice that couldn't be silenced. Some performers light up the stage. MJ Rodriguez lit up history. Born Michaela Yai Rodriguez on January 7, 1991 in Newark, New Jersey, MJ discovered her love for performing early. Church choirs and school plays became her sanctuary, a place where her voice, both literal and spiritual, could rise above the noise of the world around her. But behind the curtain, a more private transformation was unfolding. MJ knew who she was long before the world caught up. Transitioning at a young age, she faced the fear and friction that comes with living openly, especially in an industry notorious for rejecting those who don't fit its narrow mold. But MJ didn't back down. She stepped forward, and in doing so, she became a trailblazer. Her breakout role came in Pose, the FX drama that shattered glass ceilings and broke new ground in television history. As Blanca Rodriguez Evangelista, a house mother in New York's underground ballroom scene during the AIDS crisis, MJ didn't just act, she embodied love, resilience, and fierce compassion. Her performance was tender yet defiant, soft but powerful, a masterclass in emotional honesty. Audiences didn't just watch her, they felt her. In 2021, MJ made history again as the first transgender woman ever nominated for a Primetime Emmy in a major acting category. Just 1 year later, she would go even further, becoming the first openly transgender actress to win a Golden Globe, a moment that echoed far beyond the award stage. But MJ's power isn't limited to her performance. Off-screen, she is a passionate advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, mental health, and the importance of authentic representation. She speaks from the heart, whether it's on red carpets, in interviews, or directly to the young people who see themselves in her journey. She reminds the world that trans people aren't just surviving, they are thriving. To fans of classic Hollywood, MJ Rodriguez is a modern embodiment of what makes a true star. Not just talent, but truth. Not just fame, but impact. She carries with her the spirit of old Hollywood, the elegance, the emotion, the unforgettable presence, but channels it through a story that's never been told like this before. MJ didn't ask for permission to shine. She created her own light, and now the world can't look away. Number 7, Dominique Jackson, elegance forged in fire. Before Dominique Jackson became the commanding presence known to millions, she was a girl from Tobago with a dream, and a storm to survive. Born in the Caribbean and later immigrating to the United States, Dominique's journey was not wrapped in glamour or ease. From a young age, she knew her truth. Her gender identity was not up for debate, though the world insisted otherwise. Her adolescence was marked by rejection, abuse, and deep emotional isolation. And when she arrived in America seeking acceptance, she was met with homelessness, marginalization, and a fight for survival. But through all of it, Dominique held onto something powerful: self-worth. She didn't just overcome adversity, she transformed it into fuel. Dominique found refuge in family in New York City's ballroom scene, a vibrant underground world built by Black and Latinx LGBTQ+ communities, where chosen families offered protection, and walking a runway was a form of revolution. It was in this space that Dominique came alive, embracing the elegant strength and defiance that would one day make her unforgettable. That day came when she stepped into the role of Electra Abundance on FX's Pose. As the fiercely glamorous, unapologetically powerful house mother of the House of Abundance, Dominique didn't just play a character, she delivered a cultural reckoning. Electra was bold, uncompromising, larger than life. But under the attitude and couture was a woman who had learned how to survive a world built to break her. And so had Dominique. With each episode, she redefined what it meant to be a trans woman on television. She brought nuance, pain, humor, and grace to a role that could have easily been reduced to stereotype. Instead, she made Elektra iconic, but her influence reaches far beyond the screen. Dominique uses her platform to advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, mental health awareness, and racial justice. She speaks at universities, marches and protests, and mentors the next generation of queer youth, especially those still searching for a reason to believe in themselves. To the audience of classic Hollywood, Dominique Jackson is a modern icon, forged in the timeless mold of classic stars, resilient, poised, and unforgettable. She reminds us that true glamour is not about appearances, it's about survival with style. Her message is fierce and clear. You do not need permission to exist. You do not need approval to thrive. You need only to step into your truth and own it with pride. Dominique Jackson didn't just find her light, she became it for everyone still stuck in the dark. These 7 voices didn't just shape Hollywood, they redefined it. Their journeys prove something powerful. Authenticity changes everything. Fame fades, but courage echoes. Who moved you the most today? Whose story made you see things in a new light? Tell us in the comments. If this inspired you, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to Classic Hollywood, where we don't just celebrate fame, we uncover the stories behind it. Because every era has its legends, and some legends break every rule.